Hey everyone, it's your boy James, Mr. Sequential Treasures himself, back here with another new comic review for you, which, given current events that we all know are taking place within the comic book industry, just may not be too many of these coming out for quite a while. Perfect timing, Jim. Perfect timing, as always. But hopefully this video will work out a little bit better than the last one did. I had to use an old digital camera to record that when this one's being recorded on an iPhone. Isn't mine, but it still works, so we'll see. So I just want to give you guys another shot at this too. This is the Batman Illustrated by Neil Adams Volume 2, which, as I said in the previous video, there it is right there. There I am, my pull quote from a review I did on a Batman comic by Neil Adams back in the day. So, like I said, my pedigree of doing reviews is solid. And today we're going to hit on this book here, Plunge, from DC Comics, part of their Black Label imprint. This is the Hill House Comics by horror master Joe Hill. They're trying to do horror-related movie-type comics, I think, with this line. And this one is called Plunge. Joe Hill wrote it. Art is by Stuart and Immonen, colors by Dave Stuart. So some quality creators, you would think. And the basic premise of this story is about a ship that was lost almost 40 years ago. Somehow comes back. It resurfaces, and the company who lost the ship hires a scientist and a scavenger crew, salvage crew, to go and investigate the ship and try to find out what happened and to recover anything that may be left on the ship to see where it was and why it disappeared. So kind of like a little bit of a mystery horror type of thing going on here. And as you can see here, we'll start right here with the cover, which is by... Jeremy Wilson. Gotta say, the cover isn't exactly a great one. I mean, you got the ship here, and you got some people here, and this whole splotchy looking thing that I'm sure has some relevance to the story, but it's not very apparent. The image would strike a little bit on the stands probably because of the contrast with the white and the dark and the reds. But as an overall design, it's not very pleasing. It's not very aesthetic. It doesn't have a lot of good aesthetics to it. So, not a great way to display and try to entice people to want to pick up your book. And as the story starts out, we start out here at a place called Atu Island in Massacre Bay. Of course, it's a perfect title, perfect place. And here we got a bunch of dead sea life right before a tsunami comes in. And then, then of course we got government officials who are monitoring the situation. It's very, very, very much like they would do. And then we meet our scientist here, Dr. Bowman. She's going to be the one who's going to investigate the happenings of the ship that has just recently resurfaced as a result of that tsunami. And then now we go on to our salvage crew, and here's the captain. And we get a little bit of a little bit of character interaction between him and his crew. Here's the guy who is he works for the oil company who was looking to get the ship back and to recover what's ever there, hiring them on. It's a very plodding, slow story. I mean, not a lot happens in this issue. I mean, here they're talking, and they're talking, and they're still talking. And we aren't until about halfway in the book before the crew meets the scientist. And then, there's more talking and talking and talking and talking. Finally they go over to the ship and they decide to camp out for the night, and some weird things happen there. Like I say, it's a very plodding story. It really didn't give you a whole lot in this outing. It reads more like the first 10 minutes of like a Netflix series first episode, or maybe first 10 minutes of a movie, where you're kind of establishing a lot of stuff that you can get away with that in a film setting. But in a comic setting, it's just glacial pacing. It's very slow. It's like I said, very dense read, like all this dialogue, all this stuff. You got some good art, Immonen's a very good artist. I got like great shots here with this shark. Great stuff here. But then, well, he does good stuff like that. Then you got stuff like this. That's obvious 3D modeling. It's didn't draw this by hand. It was modeled off of like some actual photographs. Kind of lessens the enjoyment there. The colors are very muted throughout, as you can see. There's not like a lot of bright colors. It's just all very down and dark and dingy. And the thing that gets me is like the only thing is the one thing it gets is this running gag with them having recovered a shipment of dildos, and it just goes on. I mean, here it is right here, and here is some more talking about it, and then later on when the scientist shows up, there's more talk about it. You really dredge up a storage container full of dicks. I mean, they just keep talking about it. And then when the crew is kind of impressed with the doctor and a little bit, interested, how'd someone like her wind up on this boat? Someone English? Someone smart. I'm used to a shipmate who can't complete sentences. It's kind of a turn on. Well, get turned off, Clark, or I'll unload you with the rest of the stiff dicks. I mean, it's just the constant running gag with the dildos. That's about all it really gives you in this issue. There's not really a lot here. To me, it kind of is, sort of problematic, as much as I hate using that word, to what's going on in the industry today, where they're trying so hard to compete with Netflix and TV and movies that they don't understand that, this decompressed storytelling type that they're using is actually harmful to comics. Comics, you got to get in, you got to get out, you got to make your points. You only have so much page space to get your information across, and you can't, waste it with these long blathery tales of trying to set up a plot and telling everybody every crossing every I and dotting every T. You know what I'm saying? It's just a waste. And it in a book that's supposed to be something based in horror, it's even more so because you want suspense, and suspense is getting your attention, and this doesn't get your attention. This sort of just meanders on as they blather and blather and blather. And you never really become too invested in the characters or in the mission. You just sort of like, just people standing around talking most of the time. It's very, very dull, which, like I said, kind of also goes with the coloring here, which is a bit of a surprise. Dave Stuart is a very well-known colorist. He's done some really great work in the past, but I sort of putting this up near the top of what he's done. This is definitely what I'd say more towards the bottom of his work. I mean, you can just see here, I mean, it's just so muted and downplayed, and it just doesn't really work. I mean, Immonen turns in some decent work. It's competent. It's competent, I guess, is the best word for it. I mean, but again, this isn't exactly his best work either. It's just really kind of sad, because I had some high hopes for this. I was hoping to see some good horror comics, because I haven't really seen any good horror comics in a good long time. And Plunge sounded like an interesting concept, with like sort of like a ghost story on the water, with some mystery involved. But we didn't really get into any of the mystery. It's all just explained to us and explaining the plot, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And by the time you get to the end, at the last page, they did try to throw a big shock splash at the end, but by that point, you've already checked out, because there's so little going on. And then there's this thing here, this thing in the back with this sea dogs, some story that's crossing over through all the Hill House books. You can see here it says this is chapter 14. You know, so it's like they've been putting this stuff in other books, you know, pages here, pages there, and it's, you know, you read that and it's just you know, again, just wasted page space as far as I'm concerned. Because if you want to do that, just make Sea Dogs a book instead of chopping it up with a couple pages in this title, a couple pages in that title. You know, you're not enticing people with this. It's just you're just wasting space that you really shouldn't be wasting. And you know, so I can't really, you know, I just, you know, very, very disappointed in pretty much all these guys, and they've all done much better work in the past, and this is far from a great effort. I mean, it just basically is boring. You know, it's a horror book with no suspense and no heightened drama, nothing. It's just boring, and that's, you know, that's a kiss of death for horror. You know, you can do a lot of things in horror, but being boring, that's like a cardinal sin, and that's what this is. So this here book, this is definitely not a recommend. I gave it about a 3 out of 10 on my scale of rating. You know, and that's mostly just for Immonen's art, because his art is still, like I said, it's competent, it's passable. It's, you know, he draws the characters that you see well, but again, it's very flat, very uninspired. You know, the coloring is muted, the story is glacial pacing. You know, it's just boring. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of wokeness in this, or a lot of like identity politics stuff that we see in a lot of stuff today, which was nice, but, you know, being boring and plotting like this book has been is almost as bad as that. So, you know, just yeah, you can probably give this one a pass, and see if there's anything else better out there. There's got to be some better horror you can find somewhere else, because the only horror here is finding out that after you've spent the 20 minutes to read this, that you know, you're not getting that time back. That's your real horror. So okay, that'll about do it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed checking that out, and I'll be back again hopefully with some new ones. Probably spice them up with some back issues in here. I'll try to work some in, since we all know that new comics are going to be going on hiatus very shortly. So until that time, I'll talk to you guys later. Take her easy.